Henry has returned to Hong Kong after serving in the U.S. military for several years. Hoping to start a teaching career, he visits his old school, Tak Chi Secondary. The principal initially expresses doubt about hiring him, pointing out his lack of teaching experience. However, after Henry shows a recommendation letter from a high-ranking official, he is offered the job. So before Henry leaves, the principal warns him that the class he'll be teaching is the school's most troublesome group. On Henry's first day, he walks into a classroom in complete chaos. Some students are sleeping, others are singing, playing video games, or even cooking ramen on a portable stove. Despite Henry's arrival, they completely ignore him. He tries to get their attention, but they act as if he isn't there. Instead of arguing, Henry calmly goes around the class, commenting on their activities. He advises the ramen cooks to eat less because of high sodium, helps a student named Zufa with his ukulele, and warns a gamer about screen radiation. Slowly, the students start paying attention. He introduces himself and writes his name and phone number on the board, but they laugh at his messy handwriting. One student even prank calls him, but Henry takes it lightly. The students then go back to ignoring him. Frustrated, Henry uses a rubber band and a piece of chalk to trigger the classroom's fire sprinkler. Water sprays everywhere, and the students scatter to avoid getting wet. Finally, Henry gets their attention and formally welcomes them to his class. Later, a group of 5 underperforming students gathers in the sports equipment room to smoke. Their leader, Jack, has a crush on a top-performing student from another class. The others notice him staring at her picture and tease him. This group is often picked on by the school's basketball team, made up of wealthy, arrogant students. The basketball players barge into the room and mock Jack for being poor. Later, during the basketball team's practice, Jack and his friends secretly watch. Jack drops a bottle on the court, causing the team captain to fall. The group laughs, but Miss Liang, the English teacher, catches them and assigns detention. To avoid it, they pull a prank on her and run away while she's distracted cleaning her desk. Meanwhile, the school principal is stressed because the education board plans to cut 20% of the school's funding, so representatives from the board visit the school for an inspection. At the same time, Henry enters his classroom where the students have set up a water bucket prank. However, Henry's quick reflexes save him, and he pushes the bucket away before it falls. So the students, who were eager to laugh at him, are left stunned. Henry then asks Jack for his pack of cigarettes, knowing he smokes. Curious, Jack hands it over. Henry asks Zufa to name 3 ingredients in cigarettes. When Zufa answers correctly, Henry lets him skip class for the day. This sparked protests from other students, who start banging on their desks, demanding the same. So once they calm down, Henry hands each student a cigarette and asks them to analyze it. Instead of lecturing them, he explains the harmful effects of smoking, including how tar forms in their lungs. For the first time, the students listen and engage with him. After class, he collects the cigarettes and the students reluctantly return them. At that day in the cafeteria, the basketball team captain trips one of Jack's friends, Bruce, causing him to fall. This leads to a heated argument between the two groups, escalating into a full-blown food fight. Tables and chairs are thrown, and the cafeteria is left in shambles. Later, Henry is informed that 5 students from his class have been suspended for starting the fight. Henry finds Jack in the hallway, fighting with another student, and quickly intervenes to stop them. And when Henry asks Jack to calm down, Jack angrily accuses the school of favoring wealthy kids who never face punishment. That evening, Henry decides to dig into the records of 5 students to understand them better. The first student is Zufa, a young man and the son of a Pakistani immigrant. Zufa has faced racial discrimination his entire life and is often accused of theft by local police officers. Despite this, his dream is to become a musician. The second student, Dinan, is a girl whose father has been disappointed in her since her birth because he always wanted a son. To earn his respect, she has spent her life trying to appear like a boy, cutting her hair short and playing with cars. However, her efforts are in vain as her father continues to adore her younger brother and disregard her. The next 2 students are brothers, Bruce and Chris. Their mother abandoned them when they were young, running away with another man. This left their father broken, turning him into an alcoholic. With no one else to depend on, Bruce found solace in video games to escape reality, while Chris worked at a grocery store to support their family financially. Lastly, Henry searches for information about Jack, but finds no details about his family or background. In the next scene, Jack is shown working as a waiter at a restaurant. An amateur named Jianing arrives with his associates. So while Jianing is distracted, Jack steals his expensive lighter but is caught. Jianing's men beat him up and check his ID. After realizing Jack is a student, Jianing gives him some cash and offers him a job as a delivery boy for their food business. So meanwhile, Henry visits Zufa's home and sees him running away from his father and his men after stealing a ticket. Although Henry helps him initially, he learns the truth and sides with Zufa's father. Later, Henry and Zufa spend time together on a bridge. To encourage Lutfa to follow his passion, Henry sings along with a band performing on the streets. Inspired, Zufa gathers the courage to sing in public for the first time, overcoming the bullying he faced at school. Swear, Bruce and Chris's father comes home late, as usual, and demands they buy him a beer. When the brothers refuse, he yells at them and orders them out of the house. The next day, Henry meets with their father and persuades him to join rehab for the sake of his sons. At Danan's home, her father surprises her with a bag of makeup and asks her to act more like a girl for once. Furious at his constant rejection of who she is, Dinan applies the makeup on her younger brother, takes the car keys, and attempts to drive away. However, Henry arrives just in time to stop her, reminding her that driving without a license is illegal. Instead, he takes her to a go-kart racing track where she and her father compete in a race. Both race aggressively, and at one point, Dinan's go-kart veers off the track. A nearby vehicle almost hits her, but she narrowly escapes. Believing something terrible has happened to her, her father breaks down in tears. Seeing this, Denan realizes her father does care about her. She hugs him, finally feeling a sense of love and acceptance. The next day, Bruce and Chris visit a rehabilitation center with their classmates to interview a recovering alcoholic. To their shock, the person they are assigned to interview is their own father. During the session, he shares his story, admitting that he started drinking when their mother left him during a difficult time. He explains that he drowned his sorrows in alcohol and neglected his responsibilities as a father. Without revealing their connection, he apologizes indirectly to Bruce and Chris, so his words leave the brothers in tears. In another part of town, Jack starts working for Jianying. Jianying offers him a large sum of money to spike a fighter's drink during an upcoming match. Although Jack is hesitant, he has no choice but to accept the task. On the day of the fight, Jianying sponsors one fighter but places a bet on the fighter's loss. When Jack tries to drug the fighter's drink, he gets caught. Before he can expose Jianying, he is beaten up and locked in a storage locker. Henry eventually arrives at the arena looking for Jack. When the fighters try to send him away, Jack yells for help from inside the locker. Realizing Jack is trapped, Henry springs into action, fighting off the men and easily overpowering them to rescue his students. When the fighters enter the scene, things get tense. However, Henry skillfully dodges their attacks and counters them effectively. By the end, he defeats their strongest fighter, who was supposed to compete in a match shortly after. Then the next scene, Henry is seen at the hospital getting treated for his injuries. During this time, Jack tries to expose the truth about Jianying but is silenced before he can speak further. So meanwhile, the news spreads and Henry becomes known as the man who defeated a professional fighter to protect his students. Fame quickly grows, and at school, the students begin to look up to him. Unlike before, they now show respect and even stand to greet him when he enters the classroom. A flashback reveals that Henry wasn't always so respected. Back in his school days, he was a notorious prankster. One time, he threw water balloons at a student who was playing the piano during an event for parents. So later, he ended up fighting the same student and injured his hand, leading to the student being unable to perform. Henry was suspended for this and was sent to the United States shortly after. Now, with Henry as their teacher, the students take their studies seriously and prepare diligently for the upcoming college entrance exams. However, Bruce struggles the most. He has developed an addiction to pills, using them as an escape from his personal problems. While Chris turned to video games to cope with his family issues, Bruce found himself sinking into drug use. His addiction affects his focus, and he performs poorly in the mock entrance test. So Henry promises to help him, but Bruce's mental health continues to deteriorate. One day, he jumps off the balcony of his house in despair. He is rushed to the hospital, where he falls into a coma. So the media sensationalizes the incident, twisting the story to blame the school and Henry for what happened to Bruce. Following this, officials from the education board investigate the matter and decide to revoke Henry's teaching license. Heartbroken, Henry packs up his belongings and leaves the school. As he walks away, his students run after him, pleading with him to stay. So though devastated by his departure, they make a collective decision to honor his efforts by excelling in their upcoming exams. Determined to prove Henry's worth as a teacher, the students double down on their studies. On the day of the exam, they receive a mysterious message from Henry, asking them to meet at the school an hour before the test. So when they gather, they realize it was a trap set by Jianying to stop them from reaching the examination hall in time. Jianying wants to punish Henry by sabotaging the students' futures. A little while later, Henry arrives at the school and discovers Jianying's scheme. He frees the students and takes on Jianying's men to protect them. The students escape and race to the examination hall while Henry faces Jianying in a fierce one-on-one fight. During their battle, Jianying reveals a shocking truth. He is the same boy Henry pranked years ago by throwing water balloons, when an incident caused him to miss a major piano competition after Henry broke his arm in their fight. Since then, Jianying hasn't played the piano and blames Henry for ruining his dreams. Henry tries to apologize, but Jianying lashes out again. In their struggle, both try to gain control of a knife. Henry eventually gets the upper hand and has a chance to kill Jianying, but chooses not to. Instead, he sincerely apologizes for his actions as a child and walks away. Meanwhile, the students make it to the examination hall just in time and complete their tests successfully. A few weeks later, results are announced and all of them pass with excellent grades. As for Jianying, he begins playing the piano again, though it will take time for him to regain his former skills. Bruce heals fast and makes a promise to take part in next year's entrance test. The principal is also very happy because the board has decided to give them a 20% bonus fund since their students did very well in the entrance exam. Henry goes back to teaching and shows another group of students the fire sprinkle trick again. Subscribe for popcorn. We are racing towards 2,000 subscribers.